So, hello. I wanted to do something called How's Your Posture or Check Your Posture. It's a really simple thing to do, and it's going to teach you to stand up straight even when you're just waiting in a queue for something, because you're going to be more mindful of how you are moving. And posture is so important, not just because it helps the spine, not just because it helps with nerve endings talking to each other and blood flow. It also helps the organs function better. But more importantly, the more stable and straight your posture is, the better flexibility you have in the rest of your limbs. Because if you imagine your spine's like this, your leg's not going to be able to move so easily. I mean, that's a bit of an exaggeration, but you want a nice, open, movable, flexible spine. So you get two types of people. Well, you don't get two types, but the variations of people and their postures are something like this. You have people that tend to have an overactive lower back. They pop their bottom out behind them and they lift their chest, and they're quite pigeon-chested. Now, if you notice when I'm in this position, in order for me to keep my head up, my neck, there's quite a lot of compression sort of in my neck, and I feel like my shoulders are quite near my ears just to keep myself up straight. And then you've got no activation in the glutes, you've got a lot of activation in the lower back, you've got quite a lot of activation in the front of the body here and in the shoulders and in the back of the neck. Now, the variation of this that you get, just check in a mirror, do this with yourself, look in a mirror, close your eyes, just stand in a natural position and see how you feel. Because the next one that is more common is this. You pop your pelvis forward, you sit with the weight on the front of your hips, your bottom is engaged but not fully because the glutes aren't active enough, so the lower back is still kind of active. There's no support in the core at all, and the shoulders, to make sure you're not leaning back and the balance isn't going wrong, your shoulders come forward and round, and then again you're lifting your neck into this position. So whether you're here or you're here, your neck, your shoulders and your spine, it's not a effective way of moving and being and lifting and just standing. Now, if we straighten that, see how this shoulder opens. The neck's now instead of it being here and lifting, when we're open, the neck becomes nice and long. So how do we make sure that we've got the right posture? So I want you to check in the mirror first. So close your eyes, stand in front of the mirror, stand what feels natural. Don't try, just stand in a way that feels really natural. You might even find you're on one hip. Just stand in a way that's natural and see what you look like. And it might not be this exaggerated, but you might notice that the weight perhaps is in the front of your toes or in the back of your heels or not in the centre of your feet. So mountain pose is the best thing for this. So I'm going to turn to the side so you can see me better in a moment, but I want to do the feet first. So if we take the feet out like a ballerina or Charlie Chaplin, and then we take the feet down, but we actually very gently turn it, so really gently pigeon-toed, so the edge of the feet is in line with the edge of the mat, okay? Only a little bit. We want to put the weight in the centre line, so we want it to go right through the centre of our feet, in the middle of our feet, so the feet aren't falling in and the feet aren't out. So we want it to be centre. From here, because we tend to have very short muscles and they pull us in, and that makes us go into this position, and the glutes don't switch on because everything's happening in the inside line here, what we're going to do is we're actually going to force that and let the feet roll in, as you can see them, and then we're going to take the knees round and out, so the weight, you can see the weight's gone onto the little toes, out, push the big toe and the I call my bunion, but that joint into the ground, keep the knees outwards, squeeze up through the bottom and come up nice and tall. And then make sure the feet are flat, but they're not rolling inwards. So you're really going to force it, and then you're going to find that middle point where the feet feel comfortable, so you're not losing that arch in the base at the bottom of your foot. So that's slightly pigeon-toed, come in with the knees, take it out, keep the knees out, squeeze the bottom and come up, and then let the legs fall in a position where you're going to, if you're doing it properly, the chances are you're going to feel like the knees are still opening up because this muscle is probably a bit too active. Not if you're a proper gym goer that goes all the time and your muscles in your bottom are, you're probably not going to have this problem, but from here, you want to just sit the tailbone underneath the body, and there's a little bit of a squeeze. Now, your tailbone doesn't need to come right underneath the body, and so it's pushing the hips forward. It just needs to feel like it's starting to tilt forward. So you've got a little bit of glute activation. And if you're doing it properly with the tailbone underneath the body, you'll still have a slight arch in your back, but very, very subtle. If you're relaxed from this, you might find the back closes up, and it's a little bit of pressure. So a good way to do it is actually just move through the pelvis, squeeze in the bottom, and feel how the lower back feels. And as you squeeze, contracting through the front, so not just squeezing the bottom to push it forward, but contracting through the front. So these 2 points here, squeezing them and seeing where the pelvis feels nice and engaged. When you feel like you're as level as you need to be, you're going to just lift the shoulders and drop them down. Imagine there's a string on the top of the head and pull it up nice and tall. And you'll notice as soon as I lifted the head, as soon as I felt like I was pulling, I lifted through my rib cage. I didn't flare the rib cage, I just lifted upwards. And naturally, the muscles around your tummy and into your back will engage. So all of a sudden your core is behaving correctly. So think about that, pulling up, and you'll feel that pull in. Okay, from here we're going to open up the shoulders as though the collarbone is very open, but we're not going to pigeon chest and draw the shoulders back. So just let the shoulders kind of move around in that position, and if they're in the right place, you'll find that they kind of go, the fingers end up down the centre line of your leg. If you're pigeon chesting, they'll fall behind the legs. If you're slumping, they'll fall and they'll be touching the front of your legs. So you kind of want them in the middle. So don't move the arms, move the shoulders. At the base of our rib cage here, we want to do something called knitting the rib cage together. So basically, if we think about the rib cage kind of coming and touching each other, the middle body, they're not going to, but it's that sensation of it. But if you just notice very subtly, as I come in, I'm actually doing this quite forcefully so you can see, as I pull in, see how my back releases. So you want to find that point where you're open, you're on the top, your hands are down by the sides of your body because your shoulders are in the right place. You've got that tailbone underneath and there's a contraction through the tummy and through the bottom, and then a very gentle tuck underneath the rib cage, because that's just going to take a little bit more strain off the lower back, but still keeping that middle point in line and up. And hold that position. Now, if you've not done this in front of the mirror and you've done it with your eyes closed or you've been practicing, I want you to go and stand in front of a mirror, take your usual position, and then think, knees in, rounding through the little toes, pulling up, tailbone underneath, open up the body, open up the shoulders and down. And just see the difference between what is correct or more efficient for your body and what you've been doing. And if you're doing it properly and you can see there's a big difference, you'll notice as you're holding this position correctly, it will start to get you tired. You'll feel like perhaps your glutes are quite active here. You feel like you want to slump because your core is not as active and your muscles around here aren't as active. You'll feel like you want to drop your shoulders, and you're kind of just keeping it open. Now, that's not a problem if you need to come out this position. It's just a note to say, actually, what am I doing? So if I am slumping, when you're standing talking to someone, think, lift the body, open the shoulders, there we go. If you're just standing and you're getting tired on your feet, think, no, pull the knees in, lift and open, find that tailbone and lift. And it's just reminding yourself. And even if you kind of start to feel tired, you need to sway from one foot to the other and you're doing the right thing and you're up, you can even just take it over and just slightly twist and move through. So you can feel there's a centre line of the body, but you're not leaning. So if you kind of move the weight across and slightly twist through, the weight's kind of where it needs to be, but you're not in this position. And it's just teaching your body. And even if you need to bend your knee and drop your weight, instead of just dropping and going into this position, if you just come onto the tips of so if your hips are level and you feel tired and you want to rest on one side, we naturally do that. We just rest, don't we? Because we're starting back and everything's starting to get tired. Instead of doing that, if we come onto the tips of our toe and put the weight through that foot, so we can almost lift this off when we're balanced, so the weight's in there, but it's the hips not dropping, it's going to teach your body and your spine to be in the right place. And then when you start to get tired, place that foot down, take your weight across and come on and keep the hips level. So standing in this position rather than this position, because you can see how the hips drop and what pressure's going in the spine to do that and what's happening through the front of the body. So just kind of learning and feeling your way. And if you have to and you feel tired, sit down, because it's hard, especially if you work in a job where you're standing up all the time. It's so easy to sort of do this. And then you're dropping on your hips and you're moving your weight forward. So think about your posture. Check it. See yourself in the mirror. Give it a go. Namaste.